I will tell you, springtime in Florida doesn't suck. And this is episode number 3. I want to thank, hang on. I want to thank WUSA, Tegna owned, for the shirt. Very cool. Tegna loves me, so they sent me a shirt. From time to time on this vlog, I'm going to answer email. And I wanted to answer some email. Always keep your lips moist. This is not a promotion for chapstick. From time to time on the vlog, I'm going to answer email. And I got a question, and it's actually a good question. Somebody asked me, they said, what is your all-time favorite story that you covered when you were working in TV news? And that is a good question, but it's also a tough question to answer. In fact, for me, I don't even know if I could answer, because there's so many stories that I've covered and did that picking one would be really hard. And plus, the one I picked would maybe not even be that interesting of a story. I just like the people involved or what the story did or something like that. But I will tell you about 4 or 5 stories where I thought I was going to die. 5 stories where I thought I was going to die. 4 of those stories are not funny. Number 5 is kind of funny. All of them I was working as a photographer, although 2 of the stories, 2? Maybe 3. 2 of the stories I was a news director, but I had a camera on my shoulder for different reasons. One is I was covering the LA riots and no photographer from the station wanted to go. They were too scared to go. So I went and did it. And I remember arriving in Los Angeles and getting there shortly, right after the riots had started to happen. And for you millennials, the riots were also referred to as the Rodney King riots, and it was a long story, but it was a giant story. And I remember when we first arrived on the scene, you would drive and you'd see this building fully engulfed in flames, and you'd shoot the video, and you're like, "Oh my God, great video! This store is fully engulfed in flames." And then it got to the point where you'd just drive by stores that were fully engulfed in flames because you knew there was going to be another one a block away. I mean, there was thousands and thousands of stores that were burned on fire. But at one fire, I remember stopping, and we got out and shooting video and stuff like this. And a car goes by, and the guy sticks a gun out of the car and starts firing shots right in our direction. Now, I think I don't know if he's aiming for the police, which were also just off to our side, that were kind of protecting the firefighters, or what. But there's a saying in war that you don't worry about bullets until you hear the zing. And I never really knew what that meant until the LA riots when I heard the zing. I mean, you could literally hear the bullet breaking the air, passing over your head with that sound, and it was amazing. But so that was one story. The other story I covered was riots in Miami during the Super Bowl. And that was another time, got shot at, actually a bullet hole in the news van. And then there was Hurricane Andrew. Gotta be honest, wasn't really afraid of dying during Hurricane Andrew, but it was scary as hell. I mean, I was in South Florida as the storm was, Category 5 was whipping across and everything else. And it was scary. I wouldn't say I thought I was going to die there. I did fear of taking some debris to the side of the melon or something, but I didn't feel like I was going to die. And then another story was the Oakland Hills fire. In Oakland Hills, California just recently went through some major fires and stuff like that. It was the same situation. And I went down there, and I remember these fires were burning in the Oakland Hills. So it was, and again, thousands, I mean, you can Google it, thousands of homes burned down. And I mean, these weren't cheap little piece of crap homes. These are beautiful homes that just burned to the ground. And in this one, I never forget, standing kind of on the road. I mean, it was like you would have the hill and then a road and houses, and then the hill would go up a little further and there'd be more houses and stuff like that. And you know, the houses got more expensive the higher you went up on the hill because they got a better view. But I remember standing at the hill, shooting down, and the firefighters were there and stuff like that. And the fire was kind of down the hill away, but the fireman yelled, "It's making a run for the hill." And, you know, I'm shooting video and everything else like this. And I don't realize it, but by the time the fire is coming so fast up the hill that, and I didn't realize it, by the time I turn around, the fire department is gone. They had gotten in their trucks and bugged out. And there I am standing basically in the middle of the road, and this fire is coming so fast. And I'll never forget, you wore Nomex, and anybody that works on the left coast knows what Nomex is, or anybody that's covered forest fires or wildfires or anything else. And I remember laying down in the middle of the road, covering myself with the Nomex, and the flames, like literally as these winds, jumping over you as they crossed the road and just kept continuing to go. And that was scary. I was definitely sure that I was going to die, and I was going to die by fire, which is like, got to be the worst way to die. But number five is the funny one. As you can see, none of those were funny. Number 5, I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was a photographer. My first full-time job in TV news. I was working at KTUL in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And there was flooding in Skiatook, Oklahoma. And if you live in the Tulsa area, you know that Skiatook, Oklahoma floods every time a frog pees. I mean, it floods all the time. So flooding in Skiatook, Oklahoma was really not that big a story, but again, there was a lot of flooding there. And so I went up there in the live truck, me and a reporter named Rhea Blakely. And Rhea was an anchor and a reporter at the station, and then went to Washington, D.C., was there for years. She might still be there. So Rhea and I are going to cover this story. We get to the scene, and I got to set up the live truck. So I call into engineering. Now, back then, you had phones, but they weren't everywhere, mobile phones. So you called in on the radio, and I was like, Unit 1, to engineering. And your goal was, when you're setting up a live shot, is you want to get the lowest number you could. So as you put the mast up and everything else, and you're shooting in your signal, and the engineer is like, yeah, you got a 50, 50, 52, 40, 40, 39, 36, 34, 32, 20, 20. Leave it there, leave it there, leave it there. And you're set up and you're good. You got a strong signal, you're ready to go and everything else. So we're all set up for the live shot. I'm sitting in the driver's seat, the reporter's sitting in the passenger seat, Rhea. And at that point, we're just kind of waiting for our live hit and stuff like that. So we get ready to go. We're a few minutes from going live. So Rhea says, all right, let's go. So we go to get out of the truck. And as Rhea opens the door, the floodwater, which was way over there, is now moved up to the edge of the truck. And, it's not any deeper than this, but it's deep enough that a reporter ain't going to step in it. And so I said, hang on, Rhea, don't worry. I'll just pull the truck up. So here I am sitting in the live truck, and I put the truck in drive, and I start to pull forward. And as I'm pulling forward, now again, the mast is up, but I'm going 1 mile an hour, and I'm only driving 10 feet max. Every live truck operator has done this. It's, you're always told don't drive with the mast up and everything else. Every live truck operator has done it. Now trucks have got so many warnings on them, it may not even let you do it. But back then you could do it. And again, I'm only driving 10 feet and I'm driving less than 1 mile an hour. As I'm driving, all of a sudden my hands, I feel like this unbelievable, like this. And then all of a sudden, like sparks of rain are coming down on the live truck, just showering the live truck. And I'm like this and everything else. I get my hands off, and I realize that just those few feet in front of me was a power line. And I ran the live truck into a power line. Boom. So I'm getting zapped in my hands, but luckily it stops. Now we're sitting in the live truck, and I'm kind of afraid to touch any metal, the door, or anything else. But I open the door, I get out, the 40-foot mast is now laying charcoal black behind the live truck for 40 feet. It's just out the back door, down the thing, and it's just, I mean, it's fried. It looks like a McDonald's French fry that had gone through 4 turns in the fryer. It's just fried out, and the power line is broken. It's swinging back and forth with a couple little sparks like you see in the movies, and I realize, you know, this isn't good. And at that point, I hear, engineering to Unit 1, engineering to Unit 1, we've lost your signal. And at that point I said, I'm calling the station. So I called the producer, a guy named Larry DeBover. I haven't heard from Larry DeBover in, I'm not going to say how long it is, but it's a long time. Don't know if he's still in the business, stayed in the business, or whatever. But I called into Larry DeBover. I said, Larry, we're not going live at 6. The mast has fallen off the live truck. And so anyway, they said return to the station. And I figure 100% I'm losing my job. There's no question that I'm not getting, I'm not going to keep my job. And I probably shouldn't. I just drove a live truck, you know, how many thousands of dollars into a power line. The problem was when I got out, the mast, again, is a big piece of charcoal and it won't collapse. So it's 40 feet long. I don't know what to do. So I put the mast up on top of the truck on this van, like 40 feet long, and I took some microphone cable, tied it to the top of the truck, drove back to the station. When I get back to the station, I have to see news director Tom Dorr. He was my news director at the time. And I don't think, Tom will disagree with this, but I don't think Tom liked me very much. And Tom is now the news director. He's been news director everywhere. He was news director in Washington, D.C. He was news director in Chicago, Houston. He's all over the place. And now he's down in Fort Myers, at Wink in Fort Myers. And Tom, as I said, I don't think Tom liked me very much. And considering the fact that I've just caused thousands upon thousands of dollars to the live truck, I'm convinced I'm getting fired. Now, the only thing I had working for me there was Rhea Blakely. Tom loved Rhea. He adored Rhea. When Tom left KTUL and went to WJLA in Washington, he didn't take me, but he took Rhea with him. So, and luckily, Rhea and I were very good friends. We were tight at that time. I was friends with her. We did things outside of work and stuff like that. So, this was my only chance. And so we get back to the station, we pull in, the chief photographer, the chief engineer, and Tom Dorr are waiting for us in the parking lot. And they see me pull in with this long burnout French fry, 40 feet long, tied to the top of the live truck, mic cord around it and everything else. Chief engineer, the chief photographer, they climb up to the top of the truck. Tom's just standing there shaking his head. And I, you know, at the time, you know, my hands still had kind of like, they weren't like burn marks, but I took some voltage in the hands, which may be a real reason why I am like I am today. Maybe it was the voltage. I'll always blame it on the voltage. But, so anyway, the chief photographer, the chief engineer, they're looking at this thing and they're like, wow, you guys are lucky. I mean, you guys are really lucky. And at that point, Rhea starts to cry. And she hugs me. And she's like, I love you, Scott. Because she realizes now, she probably could have died. And I definitely could have died because I was the one that was taking voltage through my hands. And all I could think about while Rhea is crying and hugging me is, this has got to help. This has got to help with Tom. So anyway, Tom hands me, or hands Rhea, his credit card. He tells us to go to the hospital, get me checked out, and then go to dinner on him. I'm thinking, you know, it's the last meal before you go to the execution chamber. But, so we go to the hospital checks me out, they do like a EKG, everything else, everything checks out fine and everything, and Rhea and I go to dinner and everything else. The next morning, I'm in the shower, phone rings. I'm picking up, I'm like, hello? No, I didn't have a cell phone back then. It's a regular phone. But I'm like, hello? It's the chief photographer, Randy Almendinger. Randy's like, Scott, Tom wants to see you in his office. I don't know what it's about. And I'm like, well, gee, I think I know what it's about. So I get the I go, can I get the shampoo out of my hair? He's like, yes. I said, all right, I'll be in there shortly. So I drive into the station, and I'm thinking this is my last drive up Television Hill in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to the top of the hill to the TV station. And I go in, and Tom says, you know, blah, 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 you did this, you did that. I'm going to have to suspend you. Now, this was right as the May book was going on. And it had just gotten started. You know, so these are the spring storms in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and everything else. Tom goes, I'm going to have to suspend you for a week with no pay. And inside, I'm freaking doing jumping jacks, going, suspended, yes, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I remember I offered to Tom, I said, Tom, I know we're in ratings, I don't want to leave you shorthanded. How about I work this week with no pay, and then at the end of the rating book, I'll take that week off or whatever, and, you know, that's fine. I'll just work this week for free. And Tom was like appreciative that I made that offer. And I think that's exactly what I did, and then I don't think I ever took the time off. So I think basically I worked a week suspended with no pay. I think I went home that day and like the next day and then came back. And so I worked so I was basically suspended technically with off now at the station for 2 days. And then I came back and worked 3 days, and then I was going to take 3 days off and sometime in June or whatever. And I never did. And you know what? They still owe me that money. I think I'll call them up. It's owned by Sinclair now. They'll pay me, right? So anyway, and to add insult to injury, when all this is done, when we came back to the station, KJRH, the NBC station in town, went live at 6 o'clock. We didn't go live at 6 o'clock because our mast was a French fry at the end of laying in the middle of the street. KJRH goes live, and their live shot starts out like this. If it wasn't bad enough in Skiatook with all the flooding, for some reason, many parts of the town just lost power. I was like, that's me, that's me. So that was my first time leading a newscast as the subject of the story, but they never knew what it was because they were on the other side of town. I just happened to knock the power out by hitting the power line. So that was the time I thought I was going to die. I didn't die, and it turned out to be kind of funny. And thank you, Tom Dorr, for not firing me. I appreciate it. I really expected that to happen. And I know, Tom, you didn't like me, even though you say you did. You didn't. But so anyway, that's it. That was the story. That's going to wrap up this episode because I've probably taken up too much of your time. If you have any emails that you want to send my way, feel free, FTVLive@gmail.com, and I will get to them. I'll answer them. We'll do it in a future vlog. And WUSA, thank you for the shirt. I love it. It's great. If you want to send me some shirts, that's cool too. Any stations that want to do that, networks. I'm sure Sinclair wants to send me a bunch of them. So that's going to wrap it up, and I'll see you again in episode number 4.